Skyrim, my old love. Now, before we get into this, I'm going to assume you already know what the base version of Skyrim is, or at least what it's like. So, if you need a refresher or you somehow just don't know about it at all, there's a short 2 to 3 minute video somewhere around here. Hopefully I've got a link on screen, otherwise see the description below. Alright, let's jump ahead for a moment to the end of this. Is Skyrim the best overall game I have played in VR to date? Yes. Is Skyrim the best VR game I have played to date? No. Now let me explain. Skyrim is an excellent game overall, but it was never designed with VR in mind, and this is pretty much just a port of it into VR. There were so many points while playing this that I liked, but also a few that annoyed me, and in no small part because I knew there was a version on my computer that didn't have that issue. Now, maybe this wouldn't have been an issue if I hadn't ever played the original game for several hundred hours, but coming from it, is hard to separate that thought. Start from the beginning, there were a lot of moments in the first half hour of playing this that I looked at something and went, this looks like crap. Taking the headset off and looking at the game being mirrored onto my TV, I realized it was an issue with the headset and the VR hardware and the way that it renders in VR, not the game itself. Similar points were hitting with the audio, and I think it just comes down to the issues with head tracking that was solved a long time ago on a normal PC, but the 3D audio is just not quite there for VR. My other big gripe is how the world unfolds. In the base version, you have this awesome open world with dungeons and stuff littered around all over it, so you can just walk in any direction and you have stuff to encounter. And it ends up playing that you can fast travel back to these things after you've come across them through your natural progression and your natural playstyle if you want to do them again, or if you want a quick way to get back to something that you had to walk past. In this version, you end up having this strange bottled levels that you fast travel to, but only after you annoyingly crawl to them in the open world map, because simply put, traveling long distances is a lot more annoying. Nothing in the game itself has changed, but the way that we have to move around in VR has affected it. Unless you have an iron stomach for this stuff, which I most certainly do not, you'll probably be using the new inbuilt teleport system to move around, which makes long travel distances exceptionally annoying. And even small precision movements are a pain, and it has also taken most of the platforming elements out of the few areas that it was in the game. But even if you can use a more traditional movement, it's just not as clean as the original game was. However, the teleport system works really well in the concept of a mage roleplay, and somewhat in a stealthy rogue if you can marry that thought in your head. And actually, this is where the VR version does really quite well. Once you are in the dungeons or the cave or whatever it is that you're exploring, and the combat is coming up, and it's at that action point in the game, the mage and range gameplay actually works really quite well. In the case of Magic, I would argue better than the original game. I will say though, I have seen VR range combat done better, but it's still solid here. This is still a highly moddable experience. Most of the special edition mods do still work with VR version on a PC, and what I've been able to try out so far has made it a better VR experience. I just don't think it's going to overcome the original Skyrim. Really, the open world lets the game down a bit and sort of doesn't fit with VR, and has made it pretty clear to me that VR open world is a while off, but VR in a linear set environment or slightly non-linear set environment can work. Personally, I think a mod to unlock the fast travel map fully at the start is going to be basically a must for me to continue pushing on to this long term. I don't think I'm ever going to catch up to my normal Skyrim playtime, but with something like that, the VR version will at least get a solid look in. Let me finish by saying that I've really only complained about the negatives here. I've only really mentioned what was bad. Skyrim is still a great game, and this is still Skyrim. It's just a little let down by the VR setup and where VR hardware is at the moment. As VR as a whole improves, this is going to get better and better, and I can already see that the modding itself is trying to fix a lot of the gaps. Depending on how much time you got to play with those sorts of things, this could be a well worth look in, but it's not worth running out and buying a headset for.